Wait, not anymore. Okay.
Okay. All right.
I'm not hearing anything.
We just need like 1 more minute for stuff. So.
It was working before we hit the record.
I think so. But if we'll go back. Okay. Awesome. Ready to start?
Can you hear it there?
Ready to
Yeah.
go? And your chords are long enough that if you want to stand up and walk around, you should have. I mean, you can't go way out to the audience, but you should have some room.
Okay, so just have to make sure that.
Okay. Prayer. We ready?
Yeah, we've got volume, we've got sound.
Yeah.
Is it loud enough? Is it?
Yeah, it's good.
Ready? Okay. Okay.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to Compass Academy. Tonight we are hosting the Democratic Party candidates Aaron Swisher and Peter Rickards. They are running for the Idaho 2nd Congressional District for the U.S. House of Representatives. Earlier tonight we flipped a coin to decide who will start off. Mr. Rickards won the toss and he deferred, so Mr. Swisher will begin. We'll begin tonight with a 2-minute opening statement, followed by our questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the questions, and our questions were drafted by Compass Academy students and the community. Mr. Rickards, you won the toss, but you deferred. Mr. Swisher will begin with your opening statement.
Okay, excellent. First of all, thank you all for being here. It's obviously very important for our country and our democratic republic that people are engaged, paying attention, and trying to become educated about the people who are hoping to run the country. So I appreciate that you're all here. My name's Aaron Swisher. I live in Boise, Idaho. I've been here 25 years. My wife Elizabeth and I have a 2-year-old son, and his name is Cormac. And we want to make sure that when he grows up, he can get a good paying job that rewards him properly for the efforts that he puts forth. We also want to make sure that he and his generation are not saddled with trillions of dollars of national debt, paying hundreds of billions of dollars of interest every year on that debt. And we want to make sure that he has clean air, clean water, clean soil, for him and his generation as well. And so those are the things that I really want to focus on if I'm in the U.S. House of Representatives. Ending our extreme income disparity and making sure that we have an economy that's fair for everybody. Making sure that our environment is clean and that we're conserving natural resources for future generations. And keeping our fiscal house in order, getting the budget balanced, and starting to pay off that massive national debt that we have. I'm an economist, and my background, my strengths are in economics and finance. I think that makes me a great opponent for the incumbent Mike Simpson, who's been there 20 years and is typically wrong on economic issues, and talks a good game when it comes to fiscal conservatism, but he doesn't seem to vote in a way that really balances the budget or helps us keep our fiscal house in order. So thank you again, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Well, hi, and thank you to the Bonneville Democrats for inviting her and I here for this forum. Miranda Marquardt in particular, thank you so much. And it's an honor to be in Idaho Falls again. I've been to so many meetings here, and they have been the best meetings because the scientists and the workers have a great understanding of the documents I'm quoting. And there's always been a situation in Idaho with the nuclear businesses. And basically, I'm a retired podiatrist from Twin Falls. I moved to Idaho to get away from the burning river in Cleveland. I raised two wonderful sons here. And I've been here 2 years, and it was 1988 then. And we basically found out that the SIS plutonium laser was going to be built in Idaho. And the scientists at the time, like Senator Jack Barraclough from this area of Idaho Falls, he's the INL hydrologist, they were claiming there was nothing to clean up about the INL. And anybody with even a hint of any scientific proof of a potential health threat should show up and discuss it with their Idaho Academy of Sciences. And I love science. My dad was a veterinarian. It's just like a 4-H kid. Living in the suburbs of Cleveland because I had to clean camels out starting at age 3 as a surgical assistant. So I came up, and Jack Barraclough would always talk about the tritium that they injected right into the aquifer. We're talking about the water that makes our desert bloom. It starts up at the Blue House River where they have the plutonium dump, dives into the river, underground lake the size of Lake Erie, and we need to clean up that plutonium. And unfortunately, we've been lied to. All, never met all. Only 10% of the buried plutonium is being removed. And if we did it all as promised, $15 billion worth of jobs for Idaho Falls.
Thank you.
Who doesn't want that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Swisher, students across the nation have formed a movement towards heavier gun regulations to prevent the misuse of firearms. Do you support these changes? If so, what legislation would you recommend or push for? If not, what is your stance on the current gun debate?
Excellent, yeah. So there are a number of different proposals that are being put forth. So let me tell you what I'm in favor of and what I'm against, and that will hopefully give you a good idea. I do believe that we need to ban bump stocks. There seems to be bipartisan agreement in Congress for that. It's just not getting done, because there's a lot of NRA money in the Congress. I would also like to see us move away from the background check system and actually impose a permit to purchase system. I don't think the background check system is working, and I'm not convinced that strengthening it will actually improve the situation. Under a permit to purchase system, anyone who would want to buy a handgun or an assault rifle or whatever gun that you require a permit for would have to go down to the local law enforcement. They would have to apply in person for a permit in order to purchase that gun, whether it be from a private seller or a store like Walmart. The local law enforcement has most of, if not all, the information that would disqualify somebody from buying the gun. Okay, so that solves the background reporting information problem that we're currently having. We also have a problem in that stores like Walmart may check the background system, they may not, and there's really lax enforcement of that background check system. This solves that problem as well. It also solves the problem of the gun show loophole or the private seller loophole. If a private seller wants to sell a handgun or an assault rifle, they have to get a permit from the person buying it, but that obviously looks suspicious, right? I am not at this time in favor of banning assault rifles. I know that's very popular, but let me give you 2 reasons why I'm not. First of all, there's already 17 million of them out on the public market, so you would have to do something beyond banning future sales in order to really affect a change. And the second reason is, if you say that you want to ban assault rifles, The congressional representatives that are owned by the NRA will back away from the table and nothing will get done.
Thank you.
Yes, the gun control issue is incredibly serious. When I grew up, there was no assaults in schools. It was unheard of. I ran for this office, this congressional district, as a Republican in 1996 against then Representative Mike Rayburn, because there's nothing really Republican or Democrat about nuclear waste. And my postman handed me a book. He said, "Peter, I like it, but would you read my NRA book?" And I said, "Sure." And I'm looking for flaws, just like when I read the nuclear safety documents. And I was really surprised that I agree with almost everything they said. I do believe concealed carry does lower the crime rate. If people have unarmed citizens, they absolutely, the criminals will take advantage of it. So there will never be a pretty picture. Just a word that Aaron's word solved several times, and there will never be a solution that will stop insane people. And the paperwork situation, this system, it's also not flawed. It's the same law exactly, which is paperwork's not filed. When you go to one police station, like on Aaron's plan, to get a permit, but if the people haven't reported the criminal activity in the other state that the people just came from, if the records aren't there. So I suggest, I think the first person to suggest 30 days in jail for any police officer who has a failure to report. The last two mass shootings, Hartland and the Texas church massacre, were done by people who should have been red flagged. And if paperwork is boring, but if you're facing 30 days in jail, you might just pay attention. So if you look at my website, peterfridager.com, you'll see that Mike Simpson voted. Obama had a ban on mentally impaired people getting disability payments. And they said, if you're really good, you can have a doctor let you have a gun. And Mike Simpson said, no, let him have a gun without checking.
Thank you. Mr. Swisher, most states surrounding Idaho have legalized the use of medical and recreational marijuana. Do you see a benefit to this on a national level? Would you please explain?
Yeah, certainly. I'm in favor of a number of things on the federal level. First of all, and it's not mentioned, but I'll mention it, I think we need to legalize industrial hemp. That gives our farmers another cash crop that they can diversify into, and there's benefits to doing that. The second thing, I am in favor of federally legalizing medical marijuana. Studies have shown it to have numerous benefits, particularly for troops maybe who have PTSD, or epileptic people who are dealing with seizures. I think there are numerous other benefits. They're looking at cannabis oil being a replacement for opioids, which has been a huge problem. So I think there are numerous benefits there. I would also be in favor of decriminalizing marijuana on a federal level, and then if states wanted to fully legalize for recreational purposes, they could do that.
Okay.
And I would like clarification, without starting my time yet, on what you mean by decriminalization. A year in jail? Or?
Yeah, so basically, if you were caught with marijuana, you would pay some sort of fine rather than be thrown in jail. That way we're bringing money into the system instead of throwing these people in jail to where taxpayers have to spend money to take care of them.
And I absolutely support full legalization of marijuana. It's incredibly unconstitutional. When they banned alcohol, they had to put an amendment to the Constitution because pretty much the Constitution gives you liberty to pursue happiness in the way that you believe you should. And it's your religious right to worship God in any way you like. And I fully agree Genesis 1:29, that God shall provide every seed that you need. And so they have never banned growing personal seed in your backyard for your own medicine. And so I have a track record of beating an outlaw, just like Willie Nelson. I proudly defy the government. And I was prepared for a constitutional case of caught, and I was, some hunters claimed to be rock hunting in my backyard. But there was never sales to anybody, and the Constitution controls commerce. So if there's no commerce, I say you are free, give me liberty or death, live free, die every day. So if you look at my website, you'll actually see Dr. Sanjay Gupta apologize for opposing medical marijuana. 76% of doctors right now want to prescribe medical marijuana. And if you see the top left, there is a group called LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. And if you look at their board of directors, international, cross-America district judges, prosecutors, and jailers, and there's a video of Police Captain Peter Chris. And the message is simple, that if you want to protect our kids and cops and all prohibition, we're just saying heroin is good, but they're killing cops and the gang wars in every city. The drugs are everywhere. Legalization would tax it. It would add billions of dollars to our economy, which is right now going to El Chapo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Swisher, every day more than 115 people in the United States die after the misuse and overdose on prescribed and illegally purchased opioids. How would you try to combat this national crisis?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think our pharmaceutical industries have way too much influence in Washington. I think they have way too much influence in our doctors' offices. And so we have to find a way to keep them from pushing these drugs and encouraging doctors to use these drugs and give doctors alternatives that are non-opioid based. And some of that goes back to the legalization of medical marijuana as well. I would also like to invest money into treatment facilities, trying to reduce drug addiction and prevent it as well. And those are kind of the things that I would like to work on in terms of stopping the opioid epidemic.
And I really think the opioid crisis is putting attention to the right thing. We have Mormon moms addicted to heroin. It touches every race, every religion, every walk of life. And we just found out that Prince died of an overdose because he didn't know that fentanyl was mixed in with the opioids he was using. And this is happening across the country. And the number one cause of those deaths is the impurity of the street drugs. So again, I'm not saying to use heroin by any means. And I think in education for kids, we are taught that pleasure is a sin. Our laws are based on pleasure is a sin. And that is beyond ignorant, not defend your right to teach your kids that and have a religion that says that. But it's causing more problems. And so if kids don't know the difference, and young adults don't know the difference, hopefully they will. But if you don't know the difference between methamphetamine and beer, it all seems the same. And opium is a poppy plant, it is natural. But if you use that as your party drug, you build a tolerance, and pretty soon you never feel high again. You are just needing that to feel normal. And in fact, when you take too much, your fentanyl comes in and stops your heart. So the cannabis in the states that legalized marijuana, the death rate from opium goes down because nobody's ever overdosed from marijuana. It's ridiculous. You can overdose on aspirin and almost anything else, but the cannabinoid nerve system, there's two of them, and it does not affect your heart rate. So people are getting pain relief. Basically, it used to be prescribable until 1943. As a podiatrist, we had the burning nerve sensation on diabetics, and cannabis was the treatment. Now, the pharmaceutical companies say, watch out for all the suicidal tendencies.
Thank you. So, Mr. Swisher, last year, President Trump's Justice Department put an end to the DACA protections for undocumented immigrants who came to the United States as children. And since then, the situation has been playing out in the courts. How would you propose resolving this particular issue, and how would you deal with the illegal immigration situation in general?
Certainly. I think there is bipartisan support in Congress for extended DACA protections, and I am also in favor of that. The holdup seems to be the administration and the various departments under the executive branch. So I would hope that if we got enough people in Congress that could push a resolution to that, we could get get that through and override a potential presidential veto if need be. There are a number of other changes that we need to make to our immigration system as well. I don't know if you know it, but those who want to come here legally and apply to come to the United States typically have to wait 8 to 10 years to get their application reviewed and processed. That is way too long, particularly if you're living in a South American country and you're trying to flee drug violence or gang violence, something of that sort. We do need to protect our borders. We need to stop illegal immigration. It's a national security issue. It's an economic issue. And it's, of course, dangerous for the folks who are trying to make those journeys as well. So if we show that our border is secure and that we are actually investing in our legal immigration system and making that efficient and effective, I'm hoping that that will stop people from making that very potentially deadly journey across the southern border. Finally, we also need to make sure that legal work visas like the H-1B visa are not being used to undermine American jobs and Americans' ability to earn a decent paycheck for themselves. And I'm committed to that as well. That's actually one place where I agree with Donald Trump. He wants to make sure that those H-1B visas and other legal visas aren't being used to undermine the American paycheck. I completely agree with that. Thank you.
Yes, immigration's a very interesting issue. I was living in a slave labor nation that had no minimum wage. I would do my best to get up and over the fence to protect my family, and that's what these folks are doing. I don't truly support building the wall, and it doesn't have to be physical or anything, but we have drones and other technologies to attempt to secure the border. It is interesting that I think a couple of weeks ago they caught a couple of Chinese people coming in. So my immigrant friends, legal and illegal, but the ISIS terrorists could walk anthrax over that border just as easily, and it needs to be secure. So I'm on record, if you go to peterforidaho.com, at the DACA rally supported last fall. I called on Simpson for quick action, and it hurts me to see Mr. Trump tease these people who, by no fault of their own, are in this country, and some of them are serving in overseas, and we're not even sure they're going to have citizenship, but they're going to be sent back, and it's beyond ridiculous. So absolutely citizenship now for those that are in. If we don't control the wall and the border, it's like electrical. America saves people who are afloat. If we take everybody in, we are all going to sink. So I'm a big Ross Perot fan back when he claimed that Bill Clinton joined the Republicans and supported free trade with slave labor nations, that he would shoot the American worker in the foot, and we do the giant sucking sounds of jobs leaving the country, and that's exactly what we do. So I'd like to see Mr. Trump trying to get that balance, but I'm afraid he's taking money for himself. And he says buy American, but his ties are made in Mexico or Bangladesh, whichever is cheapest at the moment.
Thank you. So President Trump has slashed the size of public and federal lands, such as Bears Ears and Escalante National Monuments. What steps would you take as a member of Congress to ensure that our national parks and monuments and other public lands remain protected?
Yeah, well, we have to make a decision on what needs protected, and then use a congressional action that can't simply be repealed by the president. A lot of those places like Escalante were done by kind of executive order. The president just declared them a national monument, which is good if you can't do anything else. It would be great if the Congress would pass legislation to actually protect those places, so that it can't simply be repealed by the next president.
Thank you.
I really think that Mr. Trump likes to put a good spin on everything, but he has made the smartest one on the earth, and he is taking beautiful lands that should be protected and trying to open them up. And really, most of these politicians, like I was complaining about Bill Clinton, he's at first, they had the Democratic Leadership Council, DLC, hanging out where took money from the same businesses that have been basically supporting the Republicans. It used to be workers and unions with the Democrats, and Republicans with the businesses. And Bill Clinton managed to get his sticky fingers on all that money, and we've been paying for it ever since. So, again, Barack Obama had some complaints about him. He did also open up fracking in all of these lands, and that's what appears Mr. Trump to be doing down at the Utah site. Opening it up for some So, number one, it's really important. I always quote government documents. The Renewable Office of the government says that we can outproduce our power needs with wind, solar, and geothermal. 100%, converting all of our cars to electric, and not have to be in the Middle East. So when Mr. Obama talks to me and then opens it up to fracking, I go, why aren't we building windmills? In fact, we've spent $7 trillion in the Middle East, and since 1988, I've been begging to build these windmills and be energy independent. And if we had actually spent that $7 trillion building windmills and exploring geothermal and solar, we would be energy. And we wouldn't be opening up those lands to oil drilling. We consider all fossil fuels. I have a complaint about my friend Aaron, where he says on video that we would need coal forever, or we need coal and fossil fuels, for 100 years. And we absolutely don't. We can think that. We can stop and have benign things is better for the defense of the country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I address that?
We will not have any time for rebuttals. Okay, so last December, Congress passed the Tax Reform and Jobs Act. What issues do you find with this bill, and what tax policies would you support?
Yeah, I think this was a horrible bill. We ended up adding at least $1 trillion to our national debt, and that doesn't include interest. And as an economist, I can tell you that the economic benefit that we'll get from this is almost negligible. And so I do support tax reform, and I think we needed tax reform, but we needed something that would have simplified the system, reduced rates for those making less than $150,000 a year. What I'm actually in favor of is adding a new tax bracket starting at $1 million, raising taxes on income over $1 million a year, and taking that money and using it to simplify the system and reduce rates for those making less than $500,000 a year. And that is part of my comprehensive economic package. I wanted to address real quick the energy thing that Peter said earlier. The point that I was trying to make is that if you talk to Republicans about things like wind and solar, the first thing they say is, well, the wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine, and they're right. That is true, but it's true not only today, it's going to be true 100 years from now. And so our kids are either going to have to develop some sort of battery capacity that lets them store energy, or they're going to need natural gas and coal. I don't support use of those things, but they may be needed 100 years from now. And so we should conserve some of those resources for future generations.
Thank you.
We were on the tax question?
Yes.
Okay, so I appreciate your answer. Basically, I do support the cutting of the business tax to 21%. I would have preferred 20. And as much as Bernie says, let's tax those rich people, we're talking about an international playing field. So when we were taxing 35% and the others 20, basically we would see headquarters move and all that kind of stuff. And we have seen no one stay here because of that. However, Mr. Trump gave himself a tax cut, which on record he promised not to do. So from 39 to 37%, billionaires got a tax cut. So that's millions of dollars for them. And these bills that he would benefit. Oh, I'm just suffering for the people. And it's ridiculous. So the part for lowering, equalizing the business, absolutely. And the part for the billionaires, no way. I mean, it's like a loan shark when you're $19 trillion in debt, saying, why don't you make lower payments? And they give you another $100 from your paycheck, and they give themselves $1 million. And the middle class always ends up paying the bill. But if you really look at the legalization, which may sound silly to people who think that that would be the end of the world, but America spent $200 billion on illegal drugs, and we spend $200 billion in jail. And as police Captain Peter Chris says, if there was drugs in all 47 federal prisons, how in the world are we going to keep them out of a free society? You think about that. There's a penalties for taking drugs in prison, but yet they find them all the time. And so there's $400 billion of money there that if we taxed it and stopped trying to run everybody's life, it would lower everybody's taxes rate and pay off that $1 trillion of debt. So I say tax reality. The Tea Party agrees with me. I can take Republican votes.
Thank you. Mr. Swisher, do you support a public option for health care? And if not, what would be your suggestion to have affordable health care for all Americans?
Yes. To the first question, I do support a public option, and there is presently a bill called Medicare X that has been proposed in the Senate that would do just that. I think there should have been a public option included with the Affordable Care Act. It was not, but it's something that I think should have been in there. The real question here is competition, and what the government is trying to do, or what some folks in the government are trying to do, is create competition with healthcare providers and insurers, and that's why they're proposing this public option. We could do that another way as well, though, and I want to point that out. We allow so many mergers and acquisitions within the healthcare space and the pharmaceutical space that a lot of these companies get to control the prices that they charge for the drugs and the various healthcare services that they're providing. If we force these companies to compete with one another instead of allowing them to merge and acquire one another, we would have a greater competitive landscape, and you would see prices come down. And that's really what we have to do. Whether you're talking about a public healthcare system or a private healthcare system or some combination of the two, what you really have to do is bend that cost curve down. And we're not doing that because we're allowing corporations to basically just run amok and eliminate their competition by buying their competition out. I would force, for instance, a pharmaceutical company, instead of buying another pharmaceutical company to get into their drug space, force them to create their own drug. That creates research jobs, right? If they're successful in creating that drug, there's now competition between two drugs, and you now have a price war that brings the price down for that drug, where if you allow them to simply acquire the other company, you don't have that competition.
And healthcare is actually the issue that may be decided around this time. I was watching last August the circular firing squad of Republicans surrounded Obamacare with it and tried to kill it. And they shot each other instead. And then they went on vacation with no plan, no solution. And I just thought, it's hard to get media to pay attention that I had been emailing them all my healthcare plan. And I thought maybe we can actually get their attention if I run for office and try. So basically the details are at peterforidaho.com. But I basically want Medicare for all, but with the private practice option by the use of vouchers. So basically, if you have a hernia, let's say it costs $1,000 by this people who now do insurance and stuff. We have ways of analyzing it. We have all these people on Medicare that do that kind of thing. So if you have $1,000, you can go to the hospitals and get your free care as a taxpayer who's paid for that. So it's not free. It's just right now we're paying $10,000 a year for insurance, so we're going to deciding that money over, but we're getting rid of all the administrations. And so back to the hernia, Dr. Jones in town has the reputation of his private practice. You take a voucher to him. If he wants another $500, that's great. You give it to him. And we can have Cadillac care massages while you wait in these richer places. But what we don't want is this monolith logjam of the Veterans Administration that comes with Medicare for all, with this warm care. And look at what we're doing with veterans. These guys have lost limbs, have all these problems, and they're dying 6 months to wait for a doctor and physically passing away and not getting treatment. And we can do so much better. So Mr. Trump actually said some right things with the voucher system on the VA, and I would support him expanding to fully the whole country.
Thank you. Was the Facebook conflict making headlines? It's making many people feel uncomfortable and unsafe providing their personal information on the internet for profiles, purchases, and more. Do you feel that the web could be safer, and how would you propose this change be put in place?
I do feel like the web could be safer. This is an area that I'm not well versed in, so unfortunately I'm going to have to say I'm not totally sure, and I'll have to research it and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Super. And, you know, I got to sit back and laugh. The Facebook controversy, basically, people click something that says, yeah, you can look at all my emails and all my contacts, and then when they actually do that and look and see what your favorite things are and design ads that are specialized to your interest, that's what they always do. So it's not shocking that they use that privacy. They give you permission to say, go ahead and do it. I'm totally against it. If they're faking you, the internet is full of little people who click this, click that, and viruses can wipe you out. They obviously broke into. So cyber terrorism is the number one reason why we cannot have nuclear power. If you listen to Governor Rickards, he admits that hundreds of times a day, hackers are trying to get into our nuclear power plants. And there is an intranet which is supposed to keep these nuclear power plants off of the internet. But yet in 2003, Davis Bessie took over a nuclear power plant. They broke through that wall, and they got from the web into the company's online website, and then snuck into the infrastructure. But the weakest link is the employee who updates the computer, and the experts are right at INL. So, my friends, we have proposals for multiple, I'm talking 8 to 12 full-scale nuclear reactors at INL that are going to be privately owned. You can't build one in Seattle. You have to go through all the permits, but they're going to sneak in here with Mike Simpson's permission and speed through the processing in terms of we don't need regulations. And they can sell to Seattle. If the computer updated, if you've got the OJ symptoms where love triangle gone bad, which happened here in 1961, with the SO1 back. Oh, nice. Sorry. Thank you.
The INL and businesses that support their mission are a large contributor to overall the economy of Eastern Idaho. What is your stance for the future of the INL, and what would you like to see there?
Yes, certainly. The first thing I'd like to see is all the waste that was dumped in the 40s, 50s, and 60s cleaned up, repackaged, and shipped someplace where it can be stored safely. Right now, it looks like the best option is in New Mexico at the pilot plant, the WIPP pilot plant. I am okay with research being done here. I'm even okay with some repackaging being done here, as long as it is done safely. Peter will certainly tell you how much of a danger some of this stuff can be to our aquifer. And I agree. And you need water more than you need jobs. And so I am all for us having jobs and having them here in Idaho Falls, and I'll support that. But whatever we do here has to be done safely. That is the #1 priority. I think there are things that we can do here, research that we can do here, hopefully repackaging that we can do here. I don't want to see waste stored here. I think it's much better in New Mexico. But if we can bring things in maybe from Hanford, repackage them safely, and get them out of here in a very short time frame, that would be great.
There's so many things I disagree with Aaron. As much as I get here, I want to go back and ask me, you are not prepared for this job. I brought my phone because the picture you talk about coal is on Facebook. So my apologies for the things going on. But here's the problem. Aaron has said he wants some smart growth that I am, and he won't tell me what that is. What INL means. I say, personally, I have a $1,000 offer out to any INL scientist or MTEQ or politician safe to them means, yes, we could have a fire at the plutonium space battery production plant, and it would burn through the filters that are supposed to contain it, and it would go out in a plume. But we think we could evacuate your family from Idaho and get you out safely, and we could impound those cars and impound those cattle. And I'm talking about what this is. So this paper that we dropped earlier, this is the official plume that came out from the Lover's Triangle long back. It starts up here at the INL and goes right, sweeping down through Pocatello, Blackfoot, all the way to Early and Twin Falls. And the concentrations here, and you can see the dates, you can get it right on my website in clear graphics, and I'll show you where to find it. And this happened during a week-long inversion there. So for 1 week, the wind didn't blow over to Jackson Hole. It literally pushed down the air all the way down. And if this were to happen with 8 to 12 reactors, we're leaving the state and we're all going to have to go. Idaho is too great to evacuate.
Thank you. Representative Mike Simpson serves on the House Appropriations Committee. If you were elected, what congressional committees would you hope to serve on, and how would you leverage the committee assignments to benefit Idahoans?
Yeah. I'm basically willing to serve wherever they put me. I would love to be on the Appropriations Committee. But let me make a point about, you asked how I would leverage that job, to help Idaho, I believe, to benefit Idahoans. I believe in an economy that is strong enough, vibrant enough, and sustainable enough that we don't need to send senators and congressional representatives to Washington to leverage positions or stuff pork into bills in order to benefit their home state or their home district. There's too much of that going on, and it's really an inefficient, ineffective way to run an economy. If you set the ground rules up for your economy appropriately, you don't need to stuff pork into bills. You don't need to make infrastructure decisions or defense decisions based upon what your economy needs. Your economy is the engine, it's the foundation and the driver to allow you to make the investments that you need to make based upon rational decisions. So you won't see me leveraging any position that I have in DC, to get special pork barrel projects brought to Idaho. I have an economic plan that will work, so I don't need to dig in that swamp, so to speak.
Thank you.
Hey, could you repeat the question for me?
Yes. Representative Mike Simpson serves on the House Appropriations Committee. If you were elected, what congressional committees would you hope to serve on, and how would you leverage committee assignments to benefit Idahoans?
Well, excellent. Definitely the Appropriations Committee is the man. I definitely have a science foundation, and that would be, I think, the science and technology panels. But I'm the kind of guy who, I worked my way through school by the age of 19, take extra credits, and if there's a way to sit on all those panels, I'm going to do it. I can't stand when I see congressmen passing bills they haven't read. When Nancy Pelosi says, we won't know what's in Obamacare until we pass it, that frightens me. That's why I say, right on my website, I'm an independent running in the Democrat Party, and I do not pledge allegiance to Nancy Pelosi, and I will look out for your family like I'm looking out for my own. But absolutely, if I can bring money here to INL. Let me give an example, and it ties with Aaron's. The wind doesn't blow all the time, and the sun doesn't shine all the time, and that'll be true for 100 years. When Idaho Power was complaining that they couldn't integrate wind, and they're still pushing the wind down. I'm lovely to see all the windmills on the way up, but we can triple our electric output with wind in Idaho, according to government documents. And so basically, I pushed a Stanford study. I just hit the Google and started researching. And so way back 10 years ago, I was pushing a Stanford study that they went to Iowa. And widespread wind is as stable a base as coal and cheaper. So there they were. Basically, the slogan is, the wind doesn't blow all the time, but it's blowing somewhere. So when we put in right now this western grid, I was the Lone Ranger calling for a hearing up in Boise, trying to say, let's go through all the geothermal areas and let's go through all the rain patterns for the new western grid because we can support ourselves. And if I can pull that money in, we'll get to the solar panel that works at night later, but the sun, the infrared works 24/7 and INL works on that.
Thank you. So thank you for your answers, and we've got to the final question / closing statement. So, as Democrats running for office in a deeply red state, how will you be a competitive candidate against Mike Simpson? So what will you do to win over conservative votes, win conservative votes?
Yes. First of all, thank you all again for being here. I think it's great that you're doing this. I think it's great that you're here and you're paying attention to the race. How do I plan to challenge Mike Simpson? First of all, we are in in the middle of what we would consider a blue wave, right? People are tired of the government in Washington. They're kind of tired of Republicans, but I think they're tired of all career politicians on both sides of the aisle, to be fair about it, okay? So they want to see change, and I'm hoping to ride that change. I'm not a career politician. I'm going up against somebody who's been there for 20 years. So I think people would rather see a fresh face and fresh ideas. I think I can win over conservatives because I have produced a plan to balance the budget that's more realistic and faster than anything that the Republicans have produced. Because I understand economics and can create a foundation for balancing the budget. That was a huge issue for conservatives 5 years ago. Republicans are no longer talking about it because they just blew $1 trillion hole in the budget deficit and national debt. I think I can appeal to those voters, and I'm certainly willing to put in the work and the effort to win this race and get out and meet people face to face. That's why I'm here in Idaho Falls. I'll be in Haley tomorrow. I'll be back in Idaho Falls on Saturday. I've actually probably spent more time this month in eastern Idaho than I've spent in my home in Boise, unfortunately. I mean, fortunately for meeting the people, unfortunately for my family. So I do think this is a competitive race. I don't think it's one we should give up on. I do plan to give Mike Simpson the challenge of his life, and I think it's winnable. I think we can do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's a good question, and you know, on a superficial level, people would give me no chance. But like I mentioned, the Ross Perot people, when they actually looked at the details of my questionnaire compared to Dirk Kempton, said, "You're the most independent person we've ever met. We want to vote for you." And basically, if you go to my website, peterforidaho.com, and you click the Atomic Fallout page, you'll see an article from the Mormon Church paper. So what is this heathen doing in the Mormon Church paper? And if you go to the Deseret News, you will, in research my name, click my name, you'll see 5 stories there that were not reported in Idaho. Idaho media has been closing the information gap and repeating that we won the all means all lawsuit. And what the article on my website is I actually already have gotten a bill through Congress. I got Utah Congressman Jim Matheson to archive the exact specific atomic fallout data that was captured at INL. They had cow milk iodine 131 before the bomb testings that were aimed at Idaho. The fallout would come up, as Fred Trenkel, the CSI coach, would call it, the summer snow, and dust off the porch. But they would wait for the bomb testing in Nevada to blow toward Idaho to set it off. And they have this exact data. They know exactly how. And on the CDC Citizen Advisory Panel, I have in transcript them promising to use that atomic fallout data. And the first footnote in the bomb test study says, due to a lack of available data, these are all guesses you can't sue us for. But if you look at my papers, Idaho's driven in multiple sclerosis. The 6 counties around INL have an elevated brain cancer rate. The federal government's caused more diseases here, and basically that appeals, and the Mormon people understand it. The conservative values is conserve Idaho. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, thank you for your answers. This concludes our forum. On behalf of Compass County and the Bonneville County Democrats, we thank you for your attendance. Remember, May 15th is the primary, so be sure to get out there and vote. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much.